Chapter 1. The lock on the entryway door clicked softly. Victoria Sterling was home. As the scent of her expensive perfume filled the air, I spoke calmly. "Let's break up." She looked up, her stunningly beautiful face filled with confusion. "Just because I didn't text you back yesterday?" I pulled the corner of my mouth into a cold smirk and nodded dismissively. "Yes, just because of that." She looked as if she'd just heard the most ridiculous joke in the world, letting out a weary sigh and tossing her trench coat onto the sofa. "Sincere, we're both adults. Isn't it better to give each other a little space?" Before she finished speaking, she was already walking toward me out of habit, her arms reaching out, ready to nestle into my embrace and act cute, just as she had countless times before. Her red lips drew near my ear, her breath a fragrant whisper. "Stop messing around. What do you want this time?" My whole body went rigid. Of course. From the days I stood by her as she built her empire from nothing to the moment she became the wealthiest self-made woman in the country, Victoria Sterling had long been certain of one thing. She was certain that I could never bear to leave her. Seeing my lack of response, she added, her tone laced with a kind of patronizing patience, "I wasn't ignoring you. I was genuinely busy with work yesterday, a very important project. It just wasn't convenient to take your call." She patted my cheek gently. "You're just overthinking things." That single sentence was the final straw that crushed the last bit of warmth in my heart. I shoved her away, escaping the gentle haven that had once been my world. I watched the flicker of shock in her eyes as I stated, my face a blank mask, "This is it. I'm leaving. In the exam of love, you missed a single question. To me, that means a score of 0. And I have no interest in a love that isn't a perfect 100. Chapter 2. Just because I didn't text you back yesterday. Her voice was tinged with disbelief, as if she were listening to some absurd joke. The cold light fell on her face, illuminating her flawless makeup and the air of superior exhaustion she wore. Victoria Sterling sighed helplessly, a sigh that held no plea, only impatience. "Sincere, we're both adults. Isn't it better to give each other a little space?" Her perfect brows furrowed slightly as she began to explain, her tone sounding more like she was assigning tasks to a subordinate. "I wasn't ignoring you. I was just busy with work, a very important project. I really couldn't spare the time." Zip. I pulled the zipper on my suitcase closed. The sound was like a sharp blade severing the last thread of affection between us. I stood up, my tall frame brushing past her. As I passed, I couldn't even be bothered to glance at her, only giving a detached nod. "This is it. I'm leaving." A cold hand suddenly gripped my wrist. Victoria's voice finally held a trace of panic. "Sincere, where are you going?" "Are you abandoning me?" As if burned by something filthy, I violently shook her hand off. I looked up, staring directly at the face I had once loved to the bone, and enunciated each word with perfect clarity. "Abandon?" My lips curled into a sneer. "Victoria Sterling, you remember this. From beginning to end, you were the one who abandoned me." My fingertips had just brushed the cool metal of the doorknob. Click. The lock turned, but from the outside, the door swung open. A young, handsome face with an innocent smile appeared in the doorway. It was Victoria's personal secretary, Ethan Price. The three of us, in this cramped entryway, formed an incredibly ironic standoff. My gaze slowly drifted down, landing on his long fingers. Clutched between them was a house key, identical to my own. I laughed, a silent, painful laugh that made my chest ache. Ethan's eyes seemed to casually sweep over the suitcase at my feet, a flash of triumphant light darting through their depths, so fast it was almost imperceptible. He curved his eyes into a deceptively innocent smile, his voice bright and considerate. "Big C, are you heading out on a business trip?" He shifted to the side as if to make way for me, his posture so magnanimous you'd think he was the master of the house. "Go on, don't worry, I'll take good care of CEO Sterling while you're gone." He bit down on the words "take good care," making them exceptionally clear. I couldn't be bothered to look at him again, I just wanted to get out of this sickening place as fast as possible. But Ethan, as if afraid Victoria wouldn't hear, deliberately raised his voice. "Big C, don't be mad at CEO Sterling. She really didn't mean to ignore your messages yesterday." He wore a look of self-reproach, his performance utterly convincing. "It's all my fault. I was too stupid. The project was so important, and I kept messing it up." His tone was filled with adoration for Victoria. CEO Sterling is so gentle and patient. She stayed up late with me just to teach me. He looked at me, his eyes full of well-meaning reason. Big C, please don't throw a tantrum at CEO Sterling over this, and there's no need to run away from home just to prove a point. CEO Sterling is already working so hard. Don't make her worry about you too. This torrent of twisted truths was like a bucket of dirty water poured right over my head, and Victoria just stood there, watching coldly. She didn't say a word, not a single one. Her silence was the most damning admission of all, an admission that she agreed with Ethan's version of events, and an admission that she saw me as nothing more than a childish brat using the threat of leaving to get her attention. I laughed, the sound bubbling up from deep in my throat, laced with icy mockery. Secretary Price. I spoke slowly, deliberately, but my gaze was cold enough to flay him from head to toe. You've been on the job for 3 months, correct? And the details of a project proposal still require the CEO to personally stay up all night, holding your hand to fix them. Why don't you just give CEO Sterling your salary back? My voice was quiet, but it landed like a slap across Ethan's face. If I were you, I'd be too embarrassed to take that paycheck. 3 months on the job, still not proficient, and instead of asking senior colleagues for help, you occupy the CEO's personal time. It starts raining, and you don't know how to get your own umbrella. You just happen to get soaked at the company entrance, and just happen to run into CEO Sterling's car. Even on our vacation, you manage to have a problem at the most precise moment. Suddenly, you can't write a proposal. Then there's an error in the itinerary. And even when your apartment has a leak and a power outage, you have to call the incredibly busy CEO Sterling? My gaze shifted from him back to Victoria's cold face. Secretary Price, are you a man, baby? Or is it that in this entire sprawling city, Victoria Sterling is the only friend you have? Ethan's face went white, his eyes wide as if he had suffered a great injustice. Sincere, you've gone too far. Victoria finally moved. She took a step forward, shielding a trembling Ethan behind her. She patted his shoulder, as if calming a frightened animal. He's just started his career. It's normal for him not to know a lot of things. As his seniors, shouldn't we help him? She looked up at me, her eyes filled with reproach. Your words, they're getting crueler. Behind her, Ethan let out a timely, suppressed sob that was jarring in the dead silence of the foyer. I stared hard into Victoria's eyes. I've always been this way. Is this the first day you've known me? My gaze slowly slid across her familiar yet strange face, finally settling on the key. The key to the home that was once ours alone. The key to this apartment. My voice was hoarse, trembling with a tremor I hadn't even realized was there. You just gave it to him? Just like that? Victoria's body went rigid. I gave a mocking laugh, hollow and desolate. The moment I picked up my suitcase, I didn't look back. We had once relied on each other, and this first home we owned in the city was supposed to be our strongest fortress. Now that fortress had casually opened its gates for someone else. I pulled my thin jacket tighter around me and walked out into the cold night wind without a second glance, letting the bone-chilling air freeze me through and through. 3. I returned to my other apartment, a place that was mine alone. It was cold and empty, but it was clean. There was no sofa we had picked out together, no scent of the aromatherapy she loved, not a single trace of Victoria Sterling. Good. I opened my laptop, the screen's cold light illuminating my pale face. There was no hesitation as my fingers typed out my resignation letter. The next second, the HR manager's call came through, her voice a careful, probing whisper. Big C, about your resignation. Does CEO Sterling know? I managed a weak smile, one that was gentle yet distant. She knows. Just process it according to procedure. The HR manager on the other end audibly relaxed, her tone shifting to excited gossip. Why are you resigning? Is CEO Sterling starting a new division and putting you in charge? I paused for a moment, my gaze fixed on the heavy darkness outside the window. You could say that. Yes. From now on, I would indeed be in charge of my own life. Exhausted, I spent the next 2 days in a daze before practically collapsing into bed and falling into a deep sleep. I woke to the piercing sunlight outside my window. Out of habit, I reached for my phone, opened my social media feed, and a 9-photo grid post slammed into my vision. It was the company's outdoor team building event. In the photos, everyone was gathered around a huge barbecue grill, smiling happily. Victoria, dressed in a custom-made, pure white tracksuit, was elegant and beautiful, standing out from the crowd like a crane among chickens. And beside her, in a gaudy, multicolored tracksuit, was Ethan Price, vibrant and youthful, like a peacock showing off its feathers. My finger froze, and as if possessed, I tapped to view the full-size images. 1, 2, 3. No matter where Victoria was, Ethan was stuck to her side like an accessory, never leaving her. In the large group photo at the center, everyone had tacitly arranged themselves to frame the two of them in the middle, as if they were the couple made in heaven. I looked at the smug expression on Ethan's face and couldn't help but let out a derisive snort. Anyone who didn't know better would think Ethan Price wasn't some junior secretary, but the man of the company. My phone buzzed in my palm, the screen lighting up. It was a text from Victoria, a picture of grilled meat sizzling on the grates. From the looks of it, it was clearly Ethan's handiwork. Victoria was famously inept in the kitchen. She wouldn't know the first thing about this. In the past, I was the one who did all this. Beneath the photo was a line of text. The barbecue smells amazing. When you're done being angry, we'll go hiking and have barbecue again. Yours is the best. Stop being mad and come back to the office. Her tone was casual, as if I were just throwing a harmless little fit. I calmly long pressed her profile picture, my fingertips cold. Delete contact, confirm. The actions were fluid, like extinguishing the last flickering flame of a dying fire. I took a cab to the countryside, to the home of Grandpa Miller, the man who had taken us both in. It had once been our only route. Grandpa Miller had aged a lot, his back more stooped than I remembered. When he saw me, his wrinkled face broke into a delighted smile. "Cinny, what are you doing back? I thought you said the company was really busy." I suppressed all the grievances in my heart and forced a smile. "I missed you, so I came to see you. How's your health been?" Before Grandpa Miller could reply, the curtain to the inner room moved, and two figures emerged. In that instant, I felt like I had been plunged into an icy abyss. It was Victoria, and beside her, Ethan Price. When Ethan saw me, the triumph in his eyes was unmistakable. "Well, look at that. Big C, you're here too?" His feigned surprise was dripping with self-satisfaction. Grandpa Miller looked at me, then at them, his cloudy eyes filled with confusion. Victoria stepped forward, her posture composed, as if she had everything under control. "I had a feeling you'd be here. I came specifically to find you." Grandpa Miller was even more puzzled. He looked at Victoria and asked bluntly, "Then why did you tell me he was too busy with work to come with you when I asked earlier?" The air froze. A flicker of stiffness crossed Victoria's face, but she quickly recovered, calmly tucking a stray strand of hair behind her ear. "He's fighting with me. He even blocked all my contacts." She sighed, her voice tinged with a mix of helplessness and indulgence. "I just didn't want you to worry." My gaze became a blade, aimed straight at Ethan. My voice was bone-chillingly cold. "Who gave you permission to bring him here?" Ethan immediately put on his usual timid and wronged expression. Victoria's brow furrowed, now etched with frustration and impatience. He meant well. Her tone was light. "He heard I was coming here to find you, to our adoptive grandfather's place, and he insisted on coming along, worried something might happen to me." She even let out a small laugh, sounding exceptionally tolerant. "This kid just loves to worry. What danger could there possibly be in the place I grew up? Ha!" A laugh, cold to the extreme, echoed in my heart. She knew this was the place we grew up. The home of Grandpa Miller, who had adopted 2 orphans. The root of where we met, where we grew to know each other, where we depended on each other for survival, and yet she had so brazenly brought a man who coveted her to trample on this sacred ground. She had even intended to bring him here to see me. Was she showing him off, or was it a power move? Rage burned through my reason, my blood screaming. I took a sharp step back, putting distance between us. "Victoria Sterling." I said her name 1 syllable at a time, my voice hoarse. "Take him, and get the hell out." The composure on Victoria's face finally crumbled, the mask of control shattered by my words. "Will you ever stop?" Her voice was unbelievably cold. "When did you become so temperamental, yelling at people without any reason?" Ethan was just being kind. "Are you really going to get jealous over something like this?" Jealous? How laughable. She thought I was just being jealous and throwing a fit. My eyes were bloodshot. I grabbed the gifts and fruit I had brought for my grandfather and hurled them at them with all my strength. Get out! The fruit and gift boxes exploded at their feet, a pathetic mess. Both of you, get the hell away from me! A beast-like roar ripped from my throat. If you dare come back, I'll hit you every single time. Victoria was stunned by my ferocity. Her beautiful brows knotted tightly. She gave me one last look, a look devoid of any pain, only disappointment and contempt. You're being completely irrational. She spat the words out coldly. You need to calm down and think about what you're doing. With that, she turned and walked away, her posture as proud as ever. Ethan followed closely behind her. As he passed me, a hidden, triumphant smile played on his lips. They left without looking back. I stood there, my chest heaving, gasping for air. My body trembled uncontrollably, shaking so violently I felt like I would fall apart. An old, weathered hand gently rested on my shoulder. It was Grandpa Miller. He said nothing, just silently, carefully patted me. That gentle pat was like a switch, instantly demolishing all my pretenses of strength. All the hurt, resentment, pain, and despair that had been building up for so long erupted in that moment. I couldn't hold on any longer. In front of Grandpa Miller, my legs gave out, and I nearly collapsed to my knees. A sob, suppressed to its absolute limit, escaped my throat. And in this harbor that had once been my warmest, I broke down and cried. Chapter 4. I didn't go back that night. The vast city felt a world away as I stayed in Grandpa Miller's house, sharing his modest bed. Grandpa Miller's old hand patted my back again and again as he sighed. You too. You were just so small when I first found you. The first time she saw you, her eyes lit up like she'd discovered some kind of treasure. Back then, you were like a little hedgehog covered in spines. You wouldn't talk to anyone, and you had such a temper. But that girl, Victoria, she wasn't afraid. She loved to follow you around, telling everyone over and over. Our Cinny is the most handsome. He's not ignoring you, he's just scared because he's new here. Grandpa Miller's voice trailed off. She said that as long as she was good to you with all her heart, she would one day melt that block of ice. I stared blankly out the window. The night was a giant net trapping me, making it impossible to breathe, let alone sleep. Yes, she melted it, and then what? How could a person change so fast? The girl who, from the moment we met, swore she would always be good to me. The girl who shielded me behind her countless times, defending me without question. The girl who would believe in me without reservation, for no reason at all. How did she become this unrecognizable stranger? A person who had lost even the most basic sense of boundaries. A flood of memories rushed in. On the way to school, she would always be waiting at the corner, a warm breakfast clutched in her hand just to walk with me. On the way home, she would walk silently beside me, listening to my silence while she chattered away, trying everything she could think of to make me happy. Later, a girl from the class next door confessed to me with a blushing face, and Victoria happened to see it. She was like a small animal whose territory had been invaded. She instantly bristled, rushing forward and shoving the girl so hard she stumbled. Don't you understand? First come, first served? This is my future husband. My face burned with a mixture of embarrassment and anger as I looked at her. Her own face was beet red, but she stubbornly held her chin high, glaring at me with those clear, possessive eyes. Don't you dare say yes to anyone else when we grow up. We're going to get married and be husband and wife for life, and no one can ever separate us, husband and wife for life. No one can separate us. The most passionate vows of the past had now become the sharpest knives, carving into my heart again and again. My stomach has always been sensitive. The slightest wrong thing would give me an upset stomach, so she was always extra careful. In my desk drawer at school, and later in my office cabinet, there was always a supply of stomach medicine she had placed there. Her care was a steady stream, but her protection was a raging fire. During my freshman year of college, because I was quiet and unsociable, a loud-mouthed bully in my dorm took me for an easy target. He led the others in picking on me. The stubbornness in my bones wouldn't let me tell anyone, but I believed in an eye for an eye. They threw my textbooks into the sink, so I filled all their backpacks with toads for a midnight surprise. They secretly turned off my alarm, making me late for class, so I threw all their socks and underwear into the toilet. I met all the world's malice with the harshest response, but only Victoria could see past the sharp spines I put up to the reddened eyes beneath. She could see through my stubborn nature to the fragile, sensitive heart that would shatter at a touch. Only after her relentless questioning did I finally tell her the truth. I thought she would tell me to endure it, or maybe help me come up with some more vicious schemes. But the next day she stormed into the men's dorm like a whirlwind. Crash bang, the loud sound of things being smashed echoed through the entire floor, drawing countless onlookers. It was the first time I had seen such a fierce look in her eyes. She stared daggers at the bully, the fire in her gaze hot enough to burn him. "If you ever dare to bully Sincere again, I'll report you to the professors, to the administration, and I'll make sure you can't finish your degree here because of that incident." She received a disciplinary mark that followed her throughout her entire university career. I furiously scolded her for being impulsive, for ruining her academic record. But she just smiled, squeezing my hand tightly. "No matter what, always remember that you have me behind you. I will be your eternal support." Our college years flew by, and we plunged headfirst into the torrent of reality. Catching the live streaming wave, we rented a tiny apartment and started our business from scratch. At countless networking dinners, she always stood in front of me, knowing my stomach was weak, and intercepted every glass of alcohol offered to me. She would rather drink until her stomach bled and she ended up in the emergency room than let me touch a single drop. And when a business partner got handsy with her, under the influence of alcohol, the blood would rush to my eyes, and my clenched fist would fly without hesitation. She would immediately sober up, slap the man hard across the face, and tear up the signed contract on the spot. We were each other's strongest armor and sharpest weapon. Just like that, through thick and thin, we supported each other, relying only on one another. Our world, once a sunless basement, was slowly filled with light. From a cozy 2-bedroom apartment to a large flat downtown, and then to a luxury villa with a pool in the suburbs. But our favorite place was still the first small apartment we bought, the one that held all the memories of our struggle. I never once doubted that she was the one I would spend my life with. Our wedding date was set for next year. But that unbreakable dam began to crack the moment a man named Ethan Price appeared. He was my complete opposite. I was solitary and stubborn. He was youthful and vibrant, like a little sun that never tired. He might have been a bit clumsy, but his silver tongue could charm anyone, easily winning over everyone's affection. From his first day on the job, the office became his personal disaster zone. The printer always jammed for him. His computer always crashed. He always forgot to save the most important documents. A man without a driver's license dared to take my car to drive clients around, causing countless minor accidents. But Victoria, who once would have taken on the world for me, was now as patient as a saint. She never punished him, only saying lightly that recent graduates needed time to grow. "We went through the same thing," she said. I told myself that, trying to suppress the strange unease in my heart. I thought it was really nothing. Until the first weekend after he was hired. That day was the 10th anniversary of when Victoria and I got together. As we did every year, we were at the city's most exclusive couples restaurant, enjoying a quiet moment that belonged only to us. The candlelight flickered, casting a soft, enchanting glow on her profile. After playing the final melodious violin piece, the waiter slowly approached with a cake adorned with strawberries. The air was filled with a sweet fragrance, just like the years we had walked through together. I took her hand, about to lean over and blow out the candle that symbolized another year. At that very moment, bang, the restaurant door was thrown open violently, and an unwelcome figure burst in, shattering the romantic atmosphere. It was Ethan. Like a headless fly, he rushed straight to our table, ignoring my icy glare, and grabbed Victoria's sleeve. His hand rested there, brazenly, on her forearm. "CEO Sterling, there seems to be a problem with a project. Could you come back to the office with me to solve it?" His voice was urgent, with a perfectly calibrated mix of panic and helplessness. The temperature around me instantly dropped to freezing, the smile in my eyes completely frozen over. "You're her secretary. If you can't do your own job, do you expect your boss to clean up your messes?" My voice was cold, each word a heavy blow. Ethan seemed frightened by my intensity. He flinched, pressing even closer to Victoria as if seeking protection. "I'm sorry, Big C. I didn't notice you were here. I didn't say hello." He lowered his head, his voice a mumble, like a startled deer, pure and harmless. "Please don't be angry, but work is really important. It's just one date. Big C, don't be jealous. You have to think about the bigger picture." "The bigger picture?" Those words made me laugh, a laugh devoid of any warmth, filled only with endless absurdity and derision. A secretary who can't even do his basic job has the audacity to talk to me about the bigger picture? I stared at him, my gaze like a knife. You have no work ethic, no sense of propriety. If you can do this job, do it. If you can't, then get the hell out now as soon as I've finished. Ethan's eyes instantly turned red. He looked at Victoria, wronged and pitiful, as if I were the one being unreasonable. Victoria let out a long sigh. That sigh felt like it was torturing my heart. She stood up reluctantly, finally pulling her hand from my grasp. This project is important. He's new, so it's normal that he can't handle it, she explained softly, but her tone carried an undeniable finality. I'll go back and take care of it. She didn't even look at me again. It was the first time she hadn't asked my opinion, hadn't taken my side. She simply picked up her coat, turned, and walked out of the restaurant with that boy, without a moment's hesitation. Outside, the night was dark. Inside, the candle flickered. Its warm light fell on me, alone, leaving only a cold, desolate feeling. She left. On our anniversary, for another man, she abandoned me. I stared at the unblown candle on the table. The flame danced as if mocking my loneliness. The cream on the cake was beginning to melt, the bright red strawberries bleeding a juice like blood. Our 10 years of love, like this cake, had begun to rot and melt away the moment that man appeared. The wavering started at that moment. That time, I gave her the silent treatment for 3 whole days. I didn't answer her calls, didn't reply to her texts. I raised all my spines, thinking it would protect me from getting hurt, until she appeared in my office, holding the latest gaming console, the one I had been talking about for ages but couldn't bring myself to buy. In front of all my colleagues, she pushed the console into my arms, her voice as gentle as water. Stop being angry, okay? Our colleagues started cheering, their applause thundering. All eyes were on me, putting me in a position where I couldn't refuse. So, I could only force a stiff smile and pretend to grudgingly forgive her. But I knew the crack in my heart hadn't healed just because of a gaming console. That reconciliation did nothing to cover the festering wound. Arguing became the only tune we played. Ethan was like a persistent ghost, seeping into every corner of our lives. When we watched a movie, he would call to say the printer was broken again. When we had dinner, he would send a picture of himself working late with the caption, "With CEO Sterling here, no amount of hard work is too much." In the picture, Victoria's profile was graced with a gentle smile. His social media feed became a grand performance, a declaration of war against me. Every photo, every word, was filled with an undisguised admiration and longing for Victoria. I was furious, jealous. I fought with her like a madman countless times. But her answer was always the same. He's just a kid who recently graduated. He doesn't know any better. Don't hold it against him. He doesn't understand social etiquette. Just be patient with him. How ridiculous. She was asking me to be patient with another man's advances on her. Every argument ended with a gift from her. The latest sneakers, limited edition collectibles, expensive headphones. The things that used to make me happy, for days now felt like cold payments of hush money. She used gifts to shut me up, using material things to compensate for the love she was withdrawing. And I was so useless. I couldn't let go of our 10 years together, couldn't let go of all the good times. So, time and time again, I chose to soften, to deceive myself. Until one day I looked in the mirror at the person I had become, twisted by jealousy, and a huge wave of panic washed over me. Was I too confident? Too confident that our 10 years of love were unbreakable? Ethan's appearance left me restless day and night, almost suffocating me. I felt a sense of crisis I had never known before. I couldn't go on like this. I needed a resolution, a promise. A crazy idea formed in my mind. I had to marry her. I would use a ring, a certificate, to lock her firmly by my side, to declare to the whole world that she was mine. Once that idea took root, it grew wildly. I couldn't wait. I called her a day in advance, my voice trembling slightly with nervousness. "Victoria, tomorrow night, let's go to the place where we first fell in love. I have something very, very important to tell you." After hanging up, I took out the velvet box I had prepared long ago from the deepest part of my drawer. Inside lay a ring. I was going to tell her that I wanted to marry her. I wanted to make her Sincere Clark's wife for life, forever and ever, so no one could ever tear us apart. I waited for her at our designated spot for the entire day, from the first light of dawn till the sun set. The velvet box in my pocket pressed against my chest, a dull ache. The small ring now seemed to mock my foolish naivete. I finally gave in, my hand trembling as I lit up my phone screen. In the chat window, the message I sent at dawn, "I'm waiting for you," lay there, lonely and unanswered. Below it, a dead, empty space. Not a single word, not a single punctuation mark in reply. At the top of the screen, a notification for a new social media post suddenly popped up. As if possessed, I tapped on it. It was Ethan. In the photo, he was smiling brightly, and the background behind him was an office I knew all too well. Victoria, the Victoria I had waited for all day, was nestled in Ethan's secretarial chair. She was wearing a sharp business suit, her head tilted, a gentle smile on her lips, her focus entirely on his computer screen. It was a tenderness I had never seen on her, a gentleness that belonged to CEO Sterling. The caption under the photo, every single word was like a needle, stabbing viciously into my heart. Queenie is so considerate. When I have questions about work, she doesn't hesitate to stay behind and patiently guide me. I must work even harder to live up to Queenie's careful guidance. "Queenie," he called her Queenie. The distant church bells rang, one toll after another. It was as if they were tolling the death knell for my decade-long beautiful dream. I suddenly started to laugh, laughing until tears streamed down my face. I was the biggest fool in the world. To think I could use a ring to lock down a heart that no longer belonged to me. This ring couldn't hold her. Her heart already clearly reflected another person's shadow. It wasn't love, it was charity, and that was never the kind of relationship I wanted. I pulled the velvet box from my pocket, opened it, and glanced inside. Then, in the moment I turned to leave, I swung my arm with all my might. The ring, carrying all my hopes and despair, was thrown violently into the darkness by the side of the road. 5. The resignation letter I submitted a few days ago finally came back as an approved email, stamped in red. The dust had settled. This company was once the fruit of my and Victoria's shared labor. Every brick and tile was etched with the shadow of our past. Now, I just wanted to erase those shadows completely. Without any hesitation, I contacted a few minority shareholders I knew and quietly sold off my shares in batches. I wanted nothing more to do with the name Victoria Sterling. The years of hard work, the sleepless nights, they were enough to be exchanged for these cold numbers. It was what I deserved, and it was my final shred of dignity. Just then, my university classmate Julian Scott called. His voice was as enthusiastic as ever, saying he was organizing a business networking event for our alumni. I was silent for a moment. After leaving Victoria, I had to pave a path for my own future. Connections, in this circle, were more important than anything. I agreed to go. The hotel for the gathering was brilliantly lit, and under the massive crystal chandelier, glasses clinked and voices buzzed. I took a deep breath, buried all my emotions deep down, put on a polite smile, and straightened my sharp suit. As soon as I stepped into the banquet hall, the familiar yet strange clamor washed over me. Sincere Julian spotted me at once, striding over and clapping me hard on the shoulder. "Long time no see, you magnificent bastard, still looking sharp." His hearty laugh was filled with the joy of reunion. Seeing an old friend melted some of the ice in my heart. I pulled a small smile and we exchanged pleasantries. After a moment, Julian's gaze habitually darted behind me, a hint of confusion in his eyes. "Hey, where's Victoria? How come she didn't come with you?" He was completely oblivious, his tone casual and matter-of-fact. He then sighed, his voice thick with unconcealed envy. "Man, I'm so jealous of you two. The perfect example of going from high school sweethearts to the altar. Childhood friends, started a business together, supported each other, and became so successful. Seriously, when are we getting an invitation to the wedding?" Every word he spoke was like a dull knife, repeatedly cutting into my heart. The labels I was once so proud of were now the most bitter irony. The noise around me seemed to fade away. I heard my own voice, calm to the point of being cold. I shook my head slightly. We broke up. The words fell, and the entire banquet hall seemed to hit a mute button. Even the air felt thick and still. The classmates around us stared with wide, disbelieving eyes, their breaths caught in their throats. "Broke up? How is that possible? You guys were the golden couple of our department after all these years. How could you break up?" "Yeah, the company is so successful now. You finally made it through the hard times." A wave of doubt and shock crashed over me. I smiled. a smile that didn't reach my eyes, tinged with a self-deprecating chill. Nothing's impossible. People come and go in life. It's perfectly normal. My calmness was like a bucket of ice water, extinguishing everyone's clamor. Julian frowned deeply, looking me up and down suspiciously before lowering his voice. From the way you're talking, don't tell me Victoria did something to wrong you? I picked up my wine glass, gently swirling the amber liquid, my gaze lost in the shifting light. I shook my head and uttered two words, like a question with no answer. Maybe not? Those two words, spoken so lightly, left even Julian stunned. He opened his mouth to ask more, but met my dead, empty eyes and swallowed his words. He could see I didn't want to talk about it anymore. And just then, the heavy carved wooden doors of the banquet hall were pushed open from the outside. The bustling hall once again fell into an eerie silence. A stunning figure gracefully entered. It was Victoria, and trailing behind her, like an inescapable shadow, was a man. Ethan Price. My gaze lingered on her for only a fraction of a second before I coolly looked away. But she, as if equipped with a radar, walked briskly straight towards me. Ethan stuck close behind her, not moving an inch away. Sincere. She wore that gentle smile I knew so well and, as if no one else was there, reached out to take my arm. Stop sulking. Why did you block me? You've been mad long enough. I'll apologize, okay? Her voice was soft with a hint of playful annoyance. I frowned in disgust, and just before her fingers touched the fabric of my suit, I precisely pried her hand away. I took a step back, creating a cold social distance. Victoria Sterling, please keep your distance from me. My voice wasn't loud, but every word was crystal clear, cold as ice. Victoria's face paled for an instant. Behind her, Ethan immediately stepped up, his eyes downcast, feigning innocence. Big C, please don't be angry with CEO Sterling anymore. His voice was just loud enough for the surrounding circle of people to hear. If you're angry about something, take it out on me. It's all my fault. If I weren't so stupid and slow to learn, I wouldn't have taken up so much of CEO Sterling's time. He looked up, his expression pitiable. CEO Sterling is just kind and wants to mentor a junior. She really doesn't mean anything else by it. Besides, she's a really good person. She's been very good to me. He said that last part, very good to me, with a meaningful emphasis. The classmates around us exchanged glances, their eyes darting between the three of us, their expressions a mix of curiosity and confusion. Julian's face had turned grim. He nudged my arm, his voice tight with anger. Sincere, who is this guy? I curled my lip, my gaze bypassing the posturing Ethan to lock onto Victoria's face. Aren't you going to introduce him? My voice was quiet, yet it pierced the strange silence of the room. This person by your side. In what capacity is he attending our alumni gathering? The gentle smile on Victoria's face froze for a second. The flicker of unease was so fast it was almost an illusion, quickly masked by her perfect composure. This is my secretary, Ethan Price. She adjusted her expression, her tone impeccable. He just graduated and is still learning the ropes, but he's very dedicated. He begged me to let him come and see what it's like. I thought an alumni business event would be a good experience, so I brought him along. The surrounding classmates looked at each other, their eyes flitting between the three of us, no one daring to speak. I nodded slowly, as if I had just heard some touching story. CEO Sterling is truly a saint, always looking to mentor the next generation. I laughed, but the sound was filled with mocking coldness. He's truly lucky to have a boss like you. Every sarcastic word was like an invisible slap across Victoria's and Ethan's faces. I was tired of their act and turned to leave. Unexpectedly, that guy Ethan was truly clueless. He stepped forward and grabbed my arm. Big C, please don't be angry anymore. His teary-eyed act was the very essence of a master manipulator. At an event like an alumni gathering, you should at least give CEO Sterling some face. As her boyfriend, how can you embarrass her like this? He deliberately emphasized the word boyfriend, then changed his tone, his chest puffing out with pride. CEO Sterling is a really great person. Look, she even picked out this suit for me personally. She said I look very professional and distinguished in it. I almost laughed out loud at his audacity. I looked down at the hand gripping my arm as if it were something filthy. Then, slowly, one by one, I pried his fingers off. Well, that's just wonderful. I pulled my arm free, a grim smile on my face. Remember to send your CEO a bill later. After all, it's not every day you find a CEO who personally picks out clothes for her male secretary. I paused, leaning in closer, my voice low enough for only the three of us to hear. Since your professional relationship is so close, next time remember to have CEO Sterling pick out your underwear for you too. The color drained from Victoria's face in an instant. Her gentle mask shattered completely. Sincere, her voice was sharp, laced with flustered anger. What nonsense are you talking about? I turned back, giving her one last glance, my eyes filled with nothing but bone-deep coldness and disgust. A contemptuous sneer on my lips, I turned and walked away decisively. The smoke from the earlier confrontation had barely cleared, but at the dinner table, Victoria acted as if nothing had happened. She deliberately chose the seat next to me, as if the person who had been fuming moments ago wasn't her. I frowned in disgust, instinctively wanting to change seats. But a glance around the long table showed that our former classmates were laughing and talking, and every seat was taken. I was trapped. So I leaned back in my chair, radiating a stay-away aura, and let her perform. Sure enough, like a loyal dog, Ethan immediately sat down right next to Victoria. The atmosphere at the table was strangely festive, filled with the clinking of glasses. An oblivious classmate raised his glass and laughed loudly. Speaking of which, Sincere and Victoria were the most famous golden couple at our university. I just smirked, a smile as thin and cold as paper, and said nothing. Another classmate, probably a bit drunk, pressed on. It's been so many years. When's the wedding? Have you set a date? Ethan's face visibly darkened. He suddenly cut everyone off. He picked up a piece of glistening sweet and sour ribs and placed it precisely on Victoria's plate. CEO Sterling, try this, it's quite good. The gesture was so familiar, as if it had been rehearsed 1,000 times. Victoria didn't even lift her eyelids, simply nodding in acknowledgement of this intimacy. The table fell silent. Classmates exchanged questioning looks, the atmosphere becoming palpably awkward. Victoria picked up the piece of rib, took a slow bite, then looked up and gave the table a perfect smile. If all goes as planned, it will be next year. Once the date is set, we'll definitely send out invitations to everyone. The moment she finished speaking, Ethan bit his lip hard. He glanced at me, his eyes filled with unconcealable resentment. Watching this absurd drama unfold, I could only find it comical. I set down my glass, the bottom clinking softly against the bone china plate. The sound acted as a signal, drawing everyone's attention to me. Once the room was completely quiet, I cleared my throat slowly. We've already broken up. My voice was calm, as if stating a fact that had nothing to do with me. I'm afraid you won't be receiving any wedding invitations. The gentle smile on Victoria's face froze, then shattered. Sincere, she raised her voice, a hint of annoyance in her tone. Don't talk nonsense. Don't throw a tantrum in a place like this. The atmosphere at the table became incredibly tense. I put down my knife and fork, the clatter of silverware unnaturally loud in the silence. I'm finished. Please enjoy your meal. With that, I stood up and, under the astonished gazes of everyone, walked towards the restroom without a backward glance. I left all the awkwardness and embarrassment at the table for her to handle alone. Coming out of the restroom, the water droplets dripping from my fingertips did little to quell the irritation in my heart. As I passed the lounge, the door was slightly ajar, and a familiar, nauseating voice drifted out. It was Victoria. A female classmate's voice was filled with concern. Victoria, what's really going on? You and Sincere are fighting like this, and that male secretary... Victoria let out a very soft laugh, a mix of 7 parts helplessness and 3 parts indulgence. It's just a childish temper tantrum. He thinks I'm getting too close to the new secretary, so he's jealous. She positioned herself as a gentle, tolerant older sister, dealing with a petulant younger brother, her performance flawless. After all, she was a few years older than me. The female classmate hesitated. But, no matter how angry he's been in the past, he's never mentioned breaking up in front of so many people. This time, could he be serious? There was a moment of silence. Then, Victoria's confident voice rang out, filled with an unshakable sense of control. Impossible. We grew up together, dependent on each other. No one in this world is closer than we are. He said he would marry me and be good to me for the rest of his life. He can't live without me. She paused, her voice even taking on a sweet, declarative tone. And I can't live without him. I stood outside the door, listening to this ridiculous self-delusion, my face impassive. It was like watching a clumsy one-woman show. I started walking, passing the doorway without even a glance in her direction. Back in the banquet hall, the noise continued, but beneath the surface of festivity, there was an undercurrent of curiosity and awkwardness. Most people had finished eating and were gathered in small groups, talking in low voices. I found a corner to sit in, uninterested in any of their conversations. I took out my phone and scrolled aimlessly, isolating myself from my surroundings. But some people just don't know when to quit. Ethan approached with a wine glass in hand, a fake smile plastered on his face. Big C. He deliberately lowered his voice just loud enough for a few people nearby to hear. You were really out of line today. He sighed dramatically, feigning a pained concern for me. You haven't been to the office for days. CEO Sterling has been swamped with work, all alone. Don't you feel bad? Here, his tone shifted, the pride and smugness impossible to hide, his tail practically wagging. Lately, I've been staying with CEO Sterling until late every night, working overtime. A few questioning glances fell upon us. I looked at the smug Ethan, a cold smile suddenly forming on my lips as I slowly stood up. The movement wasn't fast, but it was like a slow-motion button had been pressed, capturing the attention of the entire room. Ethan Price! My voice echoed in the silent banquet hall. Is there some kind of special thrill you get from being a sycophant and making sure everyone knows it? Does destroying someone else's relationship give you a special sense of accomplishment? The moment the words left my mouth, the air in the hall froze. The smug look on Ethan's face went from red to white, then to a deep shade of purple. He roared, his voice loud and defensive. What did you say, Sincere? Who are you calling a sycophant? My face was cold as I raised my hand and slapped him clean and sharp. Slap, the crisp sound exploded in the dead silence, startlingly loud. Victoria had just returned from outside and walked in on this scene. Her face darkened instantly, and she strode over in her high heels. What is going on? Sincere, what are you doing? Her question was sharp and cold. Ethan immediately acted as if he'd found his protector, hiding behind her pitifully, his eyes red, his voice choked with tears. His acting was Oscar-worthy. CEO Sterling, I just saw Big C sitting alone and wanted to come over and talk to him, to ask him to stop fighting with you because of me. But then he called me a sycophant, and he hit me. After hearing this, Victoria's beautiful eyes frosted over. She glared at me, her expression filled with undisguised disappointment and blame. He's just a kid. How could you insult him like that in front of so many people? Sincere apologized to him. Now I looked at this woman berating me, at her shielding another man behind her, and I felt no anger. Instead, I found it amusing, like watching a well-rehearsed but deeply flawed comedy. My gaze went past her, sweeping coolly over the room. When I hit him, everyone was here. My voice was calm, even tinged with a lazy smile. Why don't you ask them what he said to deserve that slap? Victoria's frown deepened, her gaze sweeping over the surrounding classmates with an authoritative pressure. However, the classmates who met her eyes all looked down, exchanging awkward and complicated glances. The entire hall was silent. That silence was the best answer. I let out a cold laugh, my words hammering at Victoria's heart. He said that in the days I wasn't at the office, you were the one staying with him, working late into the night. He also said that I was out of line and that I was making things difficult for you. My gaze swept over the wronged face behind her, the mockery in my tone almost overflowing. What, has being a sycophant given you a superiority complex? You dare to come and flaunt yourself in front of the actual boyfriend? Tell me, did he or did he not deserve that slap? Victoria's face paled. Her lips moved, but she finally turned to Ethan, her voice holding a plea she didn't even realize was there. Did you really say that? Ethan, hiding behind her, mumbled, his tears falling even faster. I was just worried that you were working too hard, CEO Sterling. I wanted Big C to stop fighting with you. His ability to twist the truth was truly masterful. Victoria seemed to have found her excuse. She sighed heavily, a sigh filled with exhaustion and impatience towards me. She first spoke softly to Ethan. Sincere is my boyfriend. I know you meant well, but it was disrespectful of you to speak to him like that. Be more careful in the future. Then, she turned back to me, her beautiful face once again wearing a look of condescending judgment. Ethan didn't mean it, Sincere. She didn't get to finish. Slap, another crisp slap, harder and louder than the first. The air in the banquet hall was completely sucked out by that slap. Victoria clutched her rapidly swelling cheek, her pupils constricting in utter disbelief. "Sincere, you hit me?" she shrieked. I looked at her, and the last laughable bit of warmth in my heart vanished with that slap. Apologize? What a joke. My gaze was as cold as a blade, cutting across her face and the face of the man behind her. A brown-nosing homewrecker who covets what isn't his deserves to be hit. And a woman with no boundaries, an emotionally unfaithful woman, deserves a wake-up call even more. I spoke each word clearly, my voice not loud, but it landed like a sledgehammer on everyone's heart. "Victoria Sterling, we are broken up. Don't bother me again in the future, and don't you dare bring this disgusting thing to offend my eyes." A cruel arc formed on my lips. "Otherwise, I'll hit you both every single time I see you with that." I didn't spare another glance at the two ashen-faced people. I turned, a polite smile even gracing my face as I looked at the stunned classmates. "My apologies for the scene. Victoria Sterling and I have broken up. The reason, as you've all witnessed. I'm sorry for ruining the mood today. I have other matters to attend to, so I'll be leaving now. We'll catch up another time." In the dead silence, I calmly picked up my jacket from the back of the chair and put it on. Then, without a backward glance, I walked out of that sickening farce. Chapter 6. After Sincere left, the vast hall fell into a strange, dead silence. The air was frozen, so thick it was hard to breathe. The resentful expression on Ethan's face twisted into one of defiance. He bit his lip stubbornly, trying not to let the tears fall. That pitiful act in the eyes of everyone present now looked like nothing more than a shoddy performance, utterly sickening. Julian Scott couldn't watch anymore. His chest heaved, the anger in his eyes about to erupt. "Victoria Sterling, do you have any shame? Look at what this is. This is our alumni business networking event. Is this secretary of yours, one of our classmates, and you have the gall to say you brought him to gain experience? What kind of event did he need to attend besides this one? Wasn't it just so you could flaunt him in front of Sincere?" Julian's accusation was like a lit fuse, instantly setting off the entire room. "Exactly," a woman finally blurted out, her voice sharp. "We've all been holding this in for so long anyone with eyes can see what this conniving weasel is after. Are you, Victoria Sterling, really that blind, or are you just playing dumb?" Another man snorted coldly. "A scumbag and a shameless homewrecker. A perfect match. Spending all his time coveting what belongs to others, clawing his way up to be someone's boy toy, and then having the nerve to provoke the actual boyfriend to his face. He has absolutely no shame, and he calls himself a college athlete. He's morally bankrupt. I don't know how his parents raised such a creature." One after another, the suppressed whispers became a flood that drowned Victoria. The swollen red side of her face burned, a constant reminder of her humiliation. But these words were more painful than the slap. Her face went from white to green, a truly awful sight. "Enough," she finally roared, breaking down. "Stop it, I admit I was inconsiderate." She took a deep breath, her voice trembling with defiant rage. "But I absolutely did not cheat. I did nothing to wrong him, ha!" Julian let out a laugh filled with utter contempt. "Does it only count as cheating if you're in the same bed? Ask anyone here if they could accept the kind of ambiguous distance and behavior you have with Ethan Price, or if they could accept their partner being so inappropriately close with someone else." He took a step closer, his gaze sharp as a tack. "Try putting yourself in his shoes for a second. What if it was Sincere, inseparable from another woman day in and day out, showering her with concern, and even flaunting her in your face? Victoria Sterling, you tell me, could you stand it?" Julian's questions were still ringing in her ears. Victoria was about to argue back when her phone buzzed in her pocket. The vibration felt like a death knell, making her heart leap. She instinctively pulled out her phone. A message from the HR director was on the screen. "Personnel transfer notice, Department Manager Sincere Clark has resigned." Those few words made her eyes fly open. The next second, her trembling fingers were dialing the HR director. The call was answered almost immediately. "Hello? CEO Sterling, what can I do for you? When did Sincere resign?" Her voice was a shrill, distorted version of itself. "Why didn't you tell me?" The HR director on the other end was baffled by her shouting, her voice full of innocence and confusion. I asked Big C. He said you already knew. I even asked if a new subsidiary was being formed for him to run independently, and he confirmed it. I assumed you two had discussed it." Discussed it. He had discussed it with her. All he had given her was a slap and a cold, hard "we're broken up." Victoria was shaking with rage. She furiously hung up the phone, but before she could even process this bombshell, her phone screen lit up again with a ding. This time it was a text from another company shareholder. No words, just an image that seared her eyes. It was a photo of a share transfer agreement. The black and white text was perfectly clear. It stated that the 50% of the shares held by Sincere Clark had been sold off, piece by piece, to the other minority shareholders. He didn't just leave, he pulled the rug out from under her. Sincere had completely exited her company. This realization exploded in her mind. Victoria's legs gave out, and she swayed unsteadily. The pain on her face, the mockery in her ears, all of it seemed so ridiculous in this moment. This was his real revenge, clean, swift, and utterly brutal. Chapter 7. After I had taken care of everything, I packed a small bag and flew to Montana, that land of wide-open skies and rugged beauty. For so many years, I had been wound as tight as a spring, constantly striving for a so-called better life, for her. Now that the spring was released, I finally had time for myself. I wanted to see the world, and I wanted to let my battered heart heal. The beauty of Montana was a kind of peace that could cleanse the soul. The sky was a pure, unblemished cerulean blue, so clean it could make you cry. The tour guide I hired was named Vivian Reed. She had an exotic charm, with striking eyes and features. She was a great conversationalist, effortlessly talking about everything from local culture to historic landmarks. We got along very well, her voice dispelling the last shadows of gloom from my heart. After a week in Montana, Julian's call came through, a voice from another world. "Sincere, has she contacted you?" His voice on the other end was cautious. I gazed at the rolling plains in the distance, my own voice as calm as a still lake. "I don't know. I blocked her on everything. I'm traveling right now." Julian was silent for a moment, as if choosing his words carefully. "She's going crazy, looking for you everywhere. She's called everyone we know, just trying to find out where you are. Sincere, I think she regrets it. She wants to apologize." He paused, then finally asked the question, "Are you willing to forgive her?" "Forgive her?" I shook my head, then realizing he couldn't see me, I softly uttered the words, as if speaking to myself. "No, I don't love her anymore." The moment I said it, I felt a sense of relief I had never known before. On the other end of the line, there was only Julian's long sigh. "I just think it's such a shame. How long is a lifetime? She was your entire youth, the first half of your life, all those years you had together, growing up. It's all just gone?" His voice was filled with regret and confusion. "But how can a person change so fast?" I turned my back to the setting sun, facing the endless grasslands. The wind blew, and the green grass moved like waves. I sighed softly, a sigh that held no resentment, no bitterness, only release. People are the easiest animals to change. The human heart is fickle, hard to grasp. That's just how it is. Julian's voice grew heavy. "I don't think Victoria will give up easily. She's frantic. I heard she even pulled some strings to check airline records. She might actually find you." The wind whistled past my ear, crisp and wild. I smiled, but there was no ripple of emotion in my eyes. Montana is a big state. If she wants to look, let her. I didn't come here to hide from anyone. I just wanted to find some peace for myself. Whether she comes or not, she can't disturb me. On the other end, Julian sighed again, then started talking about what happened after the alumni gathering. He said that after I left, that Ethan guy tried to play the victim and cling to Victoria. But Victoria was like a different person. Her eyes were cold as she shook off his hand and told him to get lost and stay away from her. Ethan had a complete meltdown, screaming and shouting, but Victoria didn't give him a second glance and just walked away. I listened quietly, as if hearing a story about strangers. Anything about them no longer stirred any emotion in my heart. Hearing my silence, Julian's tone filled with frustration. "Is she crazy? She only realizes she should regret it and keep her distance after she's lost you. People never know how to cherish the happiness they have. They have to smash it to pieces with their own hands before they cry and say they're sorry." His voice was still echoing in my ear when, from behind me, a hesitant but familiar voice called out. "Sincere?" The voice trembled with disbelief. I froze. I said to Julian on the phone, I have to go. She's found me. Before Julian could react, I hung up. I turned around calmly. In my line of sight, a figure was stumbling, running towards me. It was Victoria. It had only been a few days, but she looked as if all her vitality had been drained away. Her eyes were sunken, her beautiful hair a tangled mess. There was no trace of the radiant, commanding CEO Sterling of the past. She stopped in front of me, panting, her chest heaving violently. When she spoke, her voice was hoarse, a rapid-fire series of questions. Why did you quit your job? Why did you sell all your shares? Why won't my calls to you go through? Why have you blocked me on every social media platform? Facing her bloodshot, accusing eyes, I actually managed a gentle smile. It was a faint smile, leaving no trace. Because we broke up, Victoria. When a relationship ends, you make a clean break. I don't want any more ties to you, so I quit. As for the shares, I paused, my tone as placid as if discussing a routine business matter. That was the payment I earned for dedicating my entire youth to the company. And I blocked you on everything because I believe a good ex should be like they're dead. My gaze didn't waver, looking straight into her trembling pupils. I won't disturb your new life. So please, don't offend my eyes by showing up in front of me again. It's that simple. I didn't agree to break up. Sincere Victoria's voice suddenly shot up, trembling and hoarse. She stared at me, her red-rimmed eyes filled with a desperate stubbornness. I scoffed as if I'd heard the world's greatest joke. It's a breakup, not a divorce. I don't need your consent. Victoria's eyes were blazing. She demanded, Is it because I didn't text you back that day? I already explained I was busy with work. She took a step closer, her voice cracking with tears and indignation. Don't you think you're overreacting? Yes. I uttered the single word, clear and certain, shattering all her self-deceiving hopes. It was because of that day. I told you a day in advance that I had something extremely important to say, that you absolutely had to make time, and on that day I messaged you before the sun was even up, waiting for you with a heart full of joy. But what about you? From dawn till dusk for an entire day, I waited until the sun had set, and I didn't get a single word from you. My tone was like a blade dipped in ice, each word flaying her last defenses. You said you were working, but ask yourself, were you doing your own work? You were helping Ethan solve his project crisis. He is your subordinate. That was his job, not yours for him. You stood me up for an entire day and didn't reply to a single one of my messages. So, I'm breaking up with you. I watched her face turn deathly pale and declared, syllable by syllable, Have I made myself clear enough? Victoria Sterling, I am no longer your first choice. A flawed treasure in my eyes is no different from a rock on the side of the road. And I have no interest in a flawed love. I tilted my head slightly, looking at the last rays of sunset disappearing over the horizon, and sighed with a smile. You know me. Since we were kids, I've never been able to tolerate even a single grain of sand in my eyes. Victoria took a deep breath, her fingertips turning white from clenching them so hard. She fought to control her crumbling emotions. Sincere, I swear, I never did anything to betray you. Her voice held a subtle plea. With Ethan, it was truly just a senior mentoring a junior. I just wanted him to grow quickly and contribute to the company. I didn't cheat. You can't just sentence me to death like this. She practically screamed the last few words, filled with endless grievance and defiance. Sentence you to death? I laughed as if at a great joke, a cold curve to my lips. Victoria Sterling, in your mind, does it only count as cheating if it's physical? Physical cheating is filthy, but emotional cheating, I find that even more disgusting. I looked coldly at the woman I had once loved to the bone, now a stranger separated from me by a vast distance. After more than 20 years together, I never thought I would one day use such vicious words to carve into her heart. But I had almost forgotten that I was, by nature, a solitary and cold person. It was she who had once melted the ice around my heart with her sun-like warmth and sincerity. And now, it was she who had personally pushed me back into that inescapable ice cave. That's right. You didn't physically cheat. My voice was calm, but every word was a stab to the heart. But you enjoyed his unconditional admiration, didn't you? You allowed him to use work as an excuse to get closer and closer to you, to break safe social boundaries. When you chose to abandon me time and again for his so-called project crises. When you let him into our home, to cook for you. when you put him before me, prioritizing all of his problems. When you even criticized me for him, again and again calling me petty, jealous, and cruel. Victoria, my heart died a little more with every time you ignored and blamed me. It takes more than one cold day for a river to freeze 3 feet deep. And a heart doesn't turn cold in an instant. All those small things piled up, like a frog in slowly boiling water. By the time I finally felt the pain, this relationship had already been burned to ashes. There's no going back, it's that simple. Just then the sound of light footsteps approached. Vivian, who had gone to buy me a yogurt, was back. She was holding 2 cups of iced yogurt, her clear eyes filled with confusion. She looked at my frosty face, then at the tear-streaked Victoria across from me, clearly not understanding the tense situation. The tension in my body miraculously eased the moment I saw her. I gave her a reassuring smile, a genuine soft smile. I reached out and naturally took one of the yogurts from her hand. Victoria's red-rimmed eyes locked onto Vivian, as if she wanted to devour her whole. She raised a trembling hand, pointing at Vivian, her sharp voice tearing through the evening calm. "Who is this woman? You've been in Montana all these days. Have you been with her this whole time? Have you two been secretly together all along? Is that why you made up such a ridiculous excuse to dump me?" Her accusations grew louder, filled with the humiliation and madness of betrayal. "Sincere, were you the one who cheated first?" Slap, a crisp slap, louder and harder than the last time. The air froze. I lowered my hand, calmly looking at the red mark quickly appearing on her face, my eyes devoid of any emotion. "Victoria Sterling, don't you dare project your own restless heart onto me." My voice was as cold as ice. "She's just my tour guide. If it's not because of her," Victoria clutched her face, screaming hysterically, "then you tell me why. Because I didn't text you back for one day, because of one little thing you want to break up with me. I've already apologized. What more do you want?" I looked at her broken state without a shred of pity, only a dead, desolate emptiness in my heart. I took a deep breath, the air passing through my chest with a chilling cold. "Do you even know what I had planned for that day? The day I sent you that message?" Victoria's hysterical cries stopped abruptly. She froze. I pulled my lips into a sad smile. "You see, after all this time, you never even bothered to ask. The old you wasn't like this. The old you would have cherished my every word, my every syllable." My gaze went past her, towards the distant horizon. "Victoria, do you know?" My voice was quiet, but it landed like a sledgehammer on her heart. "That day, I bought a ring. I was going to propose to you." Time seemed to stand still. All expression froze on Victoria's face, leaving only a vast, blank shock. We grew up together, relying on each other, suffering hardships others never knew, and we finally made it. But Ethan's appearance made me feel a sense of crisis for the first time. I was scared. I wanted to keep you. I wanted to use a ring, a certificate, to bind you to my side forever. Thinking back now, I was so naive. I laughed at myself, but my eyes were a barren wasteland. But still, I should thank you for not showing up that day. Thank you for not coming. Otherwise, if we had really gotten married, I can't imagine how I would face a wife who had another man in her heart. I can't imagine you continuing that ambiguous, boundary-less relationship with Ethan. It would have only made me more miserable. I would have become a jealous, self-destructive madman. Thankfully, I was able to cut my losses in time. Victoria stared at me blankly, as if her soul had been torn from her body. Her eyes, which once held starlight, were now just empty voids. Tears, finally catching up, slid down her cheeks, silent and broken. "I didn't know. Sincere, I really didn't know. You were going to propose," she tried to defend herself, her voice a flustered, wounded whisper. "But we were already planning to get married next year, weren't we? That day I was just mentoring a junior. Enough." I cut her off coldly. "I don't want to hear any more of your insincere excuses." "Sincere?" She grabbed my hand, her grip as desperate as a drowning person clinging to a piece of driftwood. "I can change. I really know I was wrong. We can fix our problems, slowly. Don't give up on me so easily, please." Her fingertips were icy, but her palm was slick with nervous sweat, clutching me tightly. "Have you forgotten? We used to be so good. We made it through all those hard times together." Her voice started to break, every word soaked in memory. Back then we lived in a leaky basement, eating cold dumplings together, and you would smile and say that as long as you were with me, cold dumplings were better than any feast. I've loved you since we were kids. From the very first moment I saw you, I never wanted anyone else. The only husband I ever wanted, from beginning to end, was you. Don't just throw me away like this, okay? Victoria's voice was completely lost to sobs, her words humbling her to the dust. Yes, the past was beautiful. I looked down at the hand, gripping mine. But that was precisely the problem. It's because the past was so beautiful, I said, each word a cruel dissection of reality, that I find it even more unbearable now that it has become so twisted. I can't compromise. This is it. With the last of my strength, I pried her fingers off mine one by one. Then, I took Vivian, who had been standing silently beside me, and turned to walk away, without a shred of hesitation. Behind me, Victoria's crying broke into a heart-wrenching, desperate wail. Chapter 8. The last 2 days in Montana, the wind was free, the clouds were gentle. Before I left, Vivian and I exchanged contact information under the setting sun. She saw me off at the airport, her deep, starry eyes gazing at me. "Will you come back?" The wind blew her long hair, carrying a hint of reluctance. I looked into her clear eyes, and it was like seeing the snows of the mountains. "Maybe. I really like it here. Then it's a deal. When you come back, you'll find me." Okay. As the plane climbed through the clouds, my thoughts turned to something else. The one keepsake I had with me when Grandpa Miller adopted me. Grandpa Miller said it might be something my birth parents left for me. For all these years, it had been locked away in Victoria's office. It was time to get it back. 9. The moment I stepped into the company, countless pairs of eyes fell on me. A strange silence filled the air. My former colleagues looked at me, their lips moving as if to speak, but then they swallowed their words, their eyes filled with complicated emotions. I simply nodded at them, a gentle but distant smile on my face. I walked straight to the office at the end of the hall. The door to Victoria's office was ajar, and through the crack, fragments of a heated argument escaped. It was Ethan's groveling voice. "CEO Sterling, I made this porridge myself. Please have a little. You haven't eaten properly for days. It's bad for your stomach." It was followed by Victoria's voice, enraged to the point of breaking. "Get out, didn't I tell you I want you to resign?" Immediately, Ethan's voice was laced with grievance. "What did I do wrong? CEO Sterling, I'm just worried about you. Please don't be angry with me." Crash, a piercing sound, the sound of porcelain being violently swept to the floor and shattering into 1,000 pieces. Ethan's cry followed, shrill and pathetic. "I told you to get out, are you deaf?" I stood outside the door, listening to it all with a blank expression, feeling nothing. The next second, I raised my hand and pushed the door open without hesitation. Amidst the wreckage, the furious woman looked up sharply. The moment she saw me, the raging fire in Victoria's eyes miraculously extinguished. Something in those stormy eyes suddenly lit up, astonishingly bright. She shot up from her chair and ran to me. Those eyes, which had been burning with fury just moments before, were now filled with nothing but flustered joy. "Sincere, you're back." Her voice trembled, tinged with a cautious, pleading tone. "Are you not angry with me anymore? I promise I won't." Her words stopped halfway as her gaze fell on Ethan. She immediately began to explain frantically. "There's nothing between him and me. Really, he just came to bring me something, and I didn't accept it. I've already told him to resign. He's the one shamelessly refusing to leave. Please don't misunderstand you." My gaze was cold, without a hint of warmth. "You don't need to explain to me," I cut her off calmly. "I'm just here to get my pendant." The word pendant seemed to drain all the strength from her body. Victoria's face turned white as a sheet. "You're taking it back?" Her lips trembled, her voice so faint it seemed about to break. "You really don't want anything to do with me ever again?" I looked at her, my eyes a silent desert. "You could say that." That light, dismissive reply was the last straw. Victoria threw all decorum to the wind and grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my flesh. "Sincere, don't give me a death sentence." Tears streamed down her face as she sobbed hysterically. "Give me a chance to repent, please. I was wrong before. I had no sense of proportion, no boundaries. I was the one who hurt you." She clung to me as if I were her only lifeline. "Don't sentence me to death. I'll change everything. We can go back to how we were. CEO Sterling, a sharp roar, filled with unbearable frustration, exploded from the side. Ethan's face was flushed as he pointed at me, defending her. "It's not your fault at all. Why are you being so pathetic? What's so great about Sincere Clark? He has such a bad temper, and he never tries to understand you. He always makes you coax him. He's so inconsiderate. Why are you humbling yourself for him?" Victoria whipped her head around, her tear-filled eyes full of hatred. She swung her hand back and slapped Ethan hard across the face. The crisp sound was jarring in the silent office. "Shut up," she screamed. "Who gave you the right to talk about Sincere like that?" Ethan clutched his burning cheek, his eyes filled with humiliation and disbelief. He looked at Victoria, his voice trembling. "CEO Sterling, you're so amazing. Why are you being so pathetic for his sake? In this relationship, you've been the one giving, the one suffering. What right does Sincere Clark have to enjoy all your kindness so complacently?" Before he could finish, his vision went black. I swung a punch, hitting him squarely on his other cheek without mercy. There was a sickening thud of bone. "Are you done?" I shook my hand, my voice cold as ice. Ethan stumbled back, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth, his eyes glaring at me with venomous hatred. From the open office door came a series of gasps. All the colleagues watching the show were stunned. I met Ethan's hateful gaze and let out a mocking sneer. "What gives you the right to judge our relationship? A third wheel who clawed his way up but couldn't even secure a title, and you talk as if you're some kind of saint. I'm not good enough for her, so you are?" His sore spot had been hit. Ethan lost control and roared. "I'm telling the truth. You only ever lose your temper at CEO Sterling. She did so much for you, gave you such thoughtful gifts. What right do you have to treat her like this, Sincere? What right do you have just because you met her before I did, because I was the one who was with her when she built this from nothing, who stood by her side from poverty to the pinnacle of success?" My voice was like a sledgehammer striking everyone's heart. "Because in the early days of the business, I was the one who drank until my stomach bled to get clients, who stayed up with her for 3 days and nights to revise proposals, because everything she has today, this brilliant success, half of the credit belongs to me. I advanced on him, step by step, my eyes burning with a cold, desolate fire. You think you know her? You think she's the victim? You sound so righteous. If she weren't the high and mighty CEO Sterling today, if she had nothing, would you, Ethan Price, still be following her around like a dog, wagging your tail and begging for scraps? What happened between her and me is none of your business. We may have broken up, but not just any stray dog gets to comment on what I put into our relationship. Know your place, you little sycophant." Ethan's face turned purple with rage. He screamed defiantly, "What did I do wrong? I was just pursuing someone I love in love. The one who isn't loved is the third wheel." Another fist met flesh. I hit him again. This time I used all my strength. I could almost hear the sound of bone shifting. Victoria just stood there watching. From beginning to end, she didn't say a word for him, nor did she try to stop me. Her silence was an invisible knife, cutting all three of us until we bled. I laughed coldly, a laugh without a trace of warmth. "You're right." I looked at Ethan's stunned face and spoke slowly, clearly. "In love. The one who isn't loved is the third wheel. So, you schemed and plotted. Now we've broken up. The position you dreamed of is empty. But does she love you?" My words stabbed him in the heart, shattering his twisted pride. "You're still the one hiding in the shadows, the one who can't be seen in public, the one who will never be loved. A homewrecker is a homewrecker. You'll always be a shameful secret, a disgraceful, shameless name." I couldn't be bothered to look at his battered face anymore. I walked past him, towards Victoria's desk. She instinctively took a step back, as if I were some kind of monster. I pulled open her most used drawer without any expression. My pendant lay there quietly in its velvet box, next to her most treasured jewelry. I took it out. The cold metal pressed against my palm, a silent mockery of this absurd drama. "This is it." I looked at her pale face, my voice as calm as a still lake. "Victoria Sterling, from now on we go our separate ways. Goodbye." I turned and left without a single glance back. Behind me was a dead silence and the sound of gasps from the onlookers outside the door. I later heard that Ethan Price was fired from Sterling Corp that day. Somehow, the story of his scheming and his habit of latching on to wealthy women spread throughout the industry, and he was effectively blacklisted. Within a year, he had slunk back to his hometown, never to be heard from again. Victoria never bothered me again either. She continued to be the high and mighty CEO Sterling, but I heard from former colleagues that she stopped smiling, that she became a grim and terrifying presence. People at the company would go out of their way to avoid her, but none of that had anything to do with me anymore. Letting someone go is like carving a piece of flesh from your own body. The pain is excruciating, but wounds, eventually, heal. The oppressive humidity of the South was suffocating, so I once again made the journey to Montana. The wind in that vast land was dry and sharp, and it blew away the last traces of gloom from my heart. At the lodge, the person who greeted me was the same girl, Vivian Reed, her smile as clean and white as fresh snow. Will we have a new story? I don't know. But I know this for certain. I want a love that is 100%. 1% less, and I don't want it. I will never compromise.